welcome to the stage David, Jennifer, Vin, and Alan. Now. So I'll let each of them make a quick introduction. So why don't we start with you, David?
Hi, I'm David. I'm CEO of GoGame. Been in gaming for 12 years, been in business for 30 years. I'm born and raised in Singapore, traveled around the world. Previously, I was involved in gaming from the console days all the way to right now to mobile. So I've been in electronic arts, and my last company was Gumi that I helped to, it's a Japanese company publishing mobile titles, and I helped to globalize that business. GoGame is invested by Sega and Incubate Fund, and we work with companies like Sega, Kolopla, Disney, Viacom, etc.
Excellent. And Jennifer?
Great. So I'm Jennifer Polson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing in Asia for Bandai Namco Entertainment. And in this region, looking after everything from Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, to all of our Southeast Asia markets. And we mainly focus on console gaming in this region. And in terms of esports, have a few global tours that we have, mainly focusing on our fighting titles, so Tekken and Dragon Ball Fighters. In terms of my background, I come from largely an agency background, actually, working on gaming clients up till now. So I worked on Square Enix and Xbox, and then Bandai Namco for the past 2 years as my first in-house gaming role.
Excellent. And Vin?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today to listen to us. I have been working in gaming and esports in Vietnam for the last 13 years. And my ex-company was Ex-Garena. So I worked there for 5 years and found the first television esports channel in Vietnam. And for the last 5 years, I'm working mainly on promoting League of Legends in Vietnam and esports. And now I'm the head of BitTrap Vietnam, and we want to leverage the power force from all industry coming to this esports. And we want to do it as big as possible. For us, we're going to stay here for a long time for the bright futures of esports ahead. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Vin. And Alan?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Alan here from AirAsia, the world's best low-cost airline, voted by Skytrax 10 years in a row. Flying over to 100 destinations and 31 countries. Woohoo! Okay. Picking you guys up. What's an airline doing in esports, man? I'll tell you guys shortly when Raiford asked the tough questions. Very interesting year for me. Just a self-confession. 1 year ago, in June 2017, I had no idea what was esports. There's a case study on LinkedIn. You can check it out on my LinkedIn page. Feel free to download it. It's free. No charges apply. And we've been in the space for about a year now. Lots of trial and error, and looking forward to share more in this session shortly. Thank you.
Excellent. And we'll start off with what most of you should be in here for. So the feeling in Southeast Asia is that monetization is either tough, non-existent, or not as impactful as other regions in the world. With each of you, how do you feel about that statement, and would you support it? Do you generally feel like that's not true? Do you feel like in the future Southeast Asia has an important role, or is still behind some of the other biggest markets where it's already accepted that monetization is easy? We'll start with David. And I'll drop my phone.
I started my business 3 years ago, and first thing I did was build 6 offices across Southeast Asia. I have over 200 people here. The first thing that we focused on was to bring Japanese content to this part of the world. The gaming market is huge. It's about $138 billion globally, and half of that is in Asia. And if you look, when I first started in Gumi 6 years ago, the Japanese market was $5 billion. Now it's almost 10 billion in just a few years, right? Southeast Asia was really a small market. when we first entered, and it was always an afterthought. Listening to all the numbers that you get from China and from the US, nobody thought of coming to Southeast Asia. I think it's an underrated market. It's fragmented because it's 6 or 7 markets, not one. And the amount of revenue this year is probably going to hit over $1 billion. But in 3 years, it's going to be over $2 billion. So you see the rate of growth, the CAGR, is among the highest in the world. The opportunity is there, I feel, because the cost of acquisition is still really low. As you know, in free-to-play mobile gaming especially, probably less than 3% of the actual players pay in the game. So you have to find the right users, and you have to bring the right audience into the game at the right price. So if you compare that to, say, Japan, it costs $15 to get 1 user in Japan, of which maybe 97% of them just consume all your resources and don't pay. Compared to Indonesia, you can buy a user maybe for $1 or less, and yet they pay. So comparatively, the market is, to me, big enough if you do 4 things. The first one is you must be able to collect money from them, especially microtransactions. So payment gateway is a very big thing. Having third-party payment, because 95% of people don't own a credit card, so they may want to pay, but they can't pay. Localization is important. So if you listen to all the previous panel talking about the hundreds of millions of streamers, how they built that community was that they are able to interact with each other correctly in the local language. But if you go into Thailand, into Indonesia, and you don't have community management that can actually cater to that market in their local language, it's going to be tough, especially like Vietnam as well. The other part is sachet pricing. So when I first took Japanese titles outside of Japan into other parts of the world, $5 for 1 gacha, and it didn't work. Most people couldn't afford to pay, right? Most of the market was still premium titles, and they wanted to charge $8.99, $10.99, which doesn't make any sense when the monthly average salary was $350 for someone in that market. But sachet pricing, I think, as we look at it, as we grow that monetization method, I think we'll grow the market significantly. So I think the market is there. You just need to know exactly how to address it, how to manage it, how to grow it. And then I think it's going to pay off. And I think in the near future, more and more people will look at this Southeast Asian market as a single market when they can understand what the players in this part of the world want, right? That's my view, yeah.
Excellent. And Jennifer, you're a little bit more on the spending side normally with marketing and advertising.
Indeed.
But how have you seen monetization? Where is it now, and how has it changed?
Well, I guess 2 thoughts. One is that in terms of the Southeast Asian market, to echo what David just said, the market is there and the opportunity is there. I think Newzoo report says that Southeast Asia is the largest or the fastest growing esports market in the world and is set to double by next year, by 2019. So that market is there. But on the other hand, in terms of the publisher perspective, the content owner perspective on this panel, I think that the dirty secret of esports is not just for Southeast Asia, but globally. The content owners and the game publishers are not making any money. So we are not, it is a pure brand investment for us. We do not make any dollars out of our esports offerings. And so that doesn't matter that it's Southeast Asia or if it's globally. We're not, I think none of the publishers, this is where I troll Chris from Riot here, Riot included, Blizzard, Activision included, whenever you talk to those guys, none of us are at the point where we're breaking even, much less monetizing. So there's a long path to go for that. There's various methods, whether it's sponsorships, whether it's ad dollars, whether it's broadcast rights. But I think that some of those more established markets like the US will see that first. I know our US team has a goal of breaking even by kind of next fiscal year, whereas Asia definitely is far more into the investment side of that still. And for us, it's really a brand play and building community and trying to sustain our products so that let's say like a Tekken 7 can then lead into a Tekken 8 and we can continue to build that community, and that's what the value of esports for us is.
Excellent. And now switching from the publisher side, and it's a little bit loaded because I literally tell him how he should think about most of the earnings on this side of monetization, but with your background before in Garena and in the Vietnamese market, Vin, how do you see monetization working right now? Where would you like to see the changes so that more people are making money within that ecosystem?
So we all know that Southeast Asia has about 200 million gamers right now, and in Vietnam alone it's 30 million gamers. And talking about monetization, Southeast Asia was also one of the born place of the biggest game publisher company in the region. Ex-Garena, and one of their successful titles is League of Legends and FIFA Live 3. And in the last 5 years, actually transformed a small company into a billion USD company right now, as we already know. So actually for them, it's actually making a lot of money. So the chance is there. It's just, like you said, it's really hard for outside people that come to Southeast Asia as a regional company and can do it at once. So you need people, especially Vietnam, is totally different than on the other market. You need to have a local team that understand the legals and the controls. It's so much different than do things in Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. So Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, somewhat the same. And only in Vietnam alone, I can share some of the numbers, but it's not too accurate at this moment. But only League of Legends and FIFA Live 3 can make more than 200 million USD a year. And right now, it's only took them about a quarter to make that kind of money with the new mobile ROV games, which we already know it dominates the market in Chinese. And right now in Thailand, it's number 1, 2. And the audience is really big. Whenever I also, who is the founder of the TV channels, so we are the biggest TV channel about esport in Vietnam, and also in Southeast Asia we have about 200 million views a month. And my biggest broadcast was the last year World Championship. It's nearly 400,000 people watched. So even just in Vietnam, you see the numbers, and it's growing like 30% every year. So it's very big chance for other brands and investors coming, and just need to get a good team and you can take the markets. And right now, I moved to BitRap, and we are like at a digital platform. We try to leverage on the resource to have build content. We all know that in this time frame, content is number 1. So we try to leverage that and trying to make the best content as possible to have our content creators become bigger and bigger.
Excellent.
So really
and Alan, AirAsia is going big into esports. They obviously see something from this coming, and at the end of that kind of massive investment needs to be some money. So how is AirAsia viewing their going into esports? How do you see it monetizing for AirAsia, and what's the bigger goal?
Okay, just a quick short story, how we got involved into esports. Back then, one of the pilots told me, hey, Alan, you know what? Tony Fernandez, the owner of the airline, he knows about esports. I'm like, what's that? Don't care. He knows about Clash Royale. Clash Royale, Royale. Sounds like casino gambling stuff. Like, okay, it's all right. And he said, Tony knows about Twitch. I'm like, Twitch? I know how to twitch my eye, right? So I went Google, how come my boss knows so much? Oh, Twitch, wow. Amazon bought it close to 1 billion back then, quite a long time ago. Like, how come nobody in the company talks about esports? We have 24,000 employees, right? So we did a lot of research and found out that, wow, this is a big market, the millennials, the Gen Z, the eyeballs, the next generation not reading physical newspapers. We spend a lot of expenses on the newspaper ads, right? Even in linear TV. and pop-up blockers they're using. So like, hey, Azure needs to get involved in this. But then people don't know us esports in the company, so we did this jersey like you're seeing right now. We did 100 over pieces, gave it to C-suite executives and even to our branding and marketing folks. And even then, they're like, wow, it's a nice jersey, has my name. I won't use it as pajamas, you know. I went in the office, they liked it. It was my own money. I invested about 1,000 US, which employee would take out 1,000 US to invest in something like that, that you can't claim back for it. The chairman of the company found out, he reimbursed me for it. Thank God I don't have to eat cup noodles for the month. And I had to share a lot. It's a question I asked a lot of senior executives in the company who worked 10, 15 years. The first question they asked, like Raiford, you're asking me now, how is Azure going to monetize on it? What is the end game, you know? Azure's core business is flying someone from point A to point B, putting bums on a seat. So how does this esports does that? I said, it's not going to do it now. We're looking at a long-term investment. It's not going to spend money now and get the guy to fly from point A to point B. You're investing in the future. Top of mind, brand awareness, and also potential consideration of using your product. And if you don't reach them now, it's going to cost more to reach them later, you know. But then again, it took a lot of education, and we went through the process of going on Google, but I can't find much info on Southeast Asia. So we actually went on ground. We flew to a lot of places, like taking a bus for me. So flew to China, Taiwan, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, and realized there's a big market there, just that you need to get educated. And right now, we did an eSport Club for employees to bring awareness internally. Within 6 months, guys, we sponsored Mineski Dota 2 team, which was in the international. They took part. It's about $25 million US prize money. And I was invited to many other talks in conferences in the US and Europe, and they say that usually it takes 2 years to get involved in esports. 1 year for education, 1 year for budget approvals. Within 6 months, we sponsored Mineski Dota 2 in January this year, and April, we acquired Azure Science, a mobile esports team. And recently, we sponsored Alibaba's WESG Southeast Asia. There's an Ex-Garena sitting over there. Michelle, hands up. Yeah. She's our organizer for it. And even Skoga, Nicholas over there, he just finished the Singapore event over the weekend. And we believe in esports tourism, creating something out of nothing. That's what Azure started off, low cost. People say, you're crazy, Tony. It's going to close down right after September 11. But look now, it's, we have 200 planes and up to 500 in order. So there's potential monetization involved. And even right now, there are a lot of streaming app companies from China especially throwing in money to the scene. You're talking 5 figures, even 6 figures in USD, guys. There's definitely potential monetization there. You're talking about jersey, apparels. It's so untapped market in Southeast Asia. Like was mentioned earlier, it's fragmented, and there's a lot of potential there, guys. And not only that, even making stars out of nobody, right? Imagine them in future, I believe, my own personal prediction, you see a lot of esport athletes on the billboards, for sure. And a lot of brand ambassadorship and many other verticals, guys. Potentially even like a lot of sponsorships, sponsors are coming in, non-endemic brands especially. Example, like I invited the executive director of Domino's Pizza. He followed me to Cannes in France. And he's like, hey, what do you think about esports, man? Then he said, oh, I thought my niece and nephew plays, but it's a big thing. He talked to all the esports leaders like you guys. And he came back, he debriefed his marketing folks. I don't care how you do it, get involved in esports. And right now, Domino's even hired an esports person. Unheard of. So don't miss out, guys.
Yeah. Great. And we've heard a lot about sponsorships. And I think sponsorships, advertising, those are the things that most people think about when they're thinking about esports and live gaming. But David, you've seen a lot in the industry over time, growth from Sega all the way to where we are now. Where do you think the best areas are for monetization for companies from the brand perspective, looking to kind of get into gaming, streaming, VOD creation, and esports?
To answer that, we have to look at the evolution of how media reaches people. I think it started a long time ago when it was TV, and you can only watch what they let you watch when they program it. And then it moved on to OTT, where You can watch anywhere, anytime, and then you pay some money for that. And earlier we were talking about streaming, live streaming. So the people nowadays are getting really impatient. The target audience was, as the previous panel was saying, 15 to 35. So those that are stuck in the older media are struggling at this moment to find advertisers to put money to attract that audience because they are moving from the big screen to the small screen. And the small screen allows you to have live interaction, not only with the content, but also live interaction with others that love the same content. So if you look at the big brands, for example, Disney, that I work quite closely with, or Viacom, they are looking at a direct-to-consumer strategy. And this is where I think the money is. I think that transmedia is going to get big. Not just one IP, one story, one platform, but it's going to be one IP, multiple stories, multiple platforms, whether it be getting your fan base. Disney, maybe with Marvel, has over 1 billion fan base. So why just show them movies? They crave for something that they can interact with. Give a very simple example, Future Fight. Marvel Future Fight is already a $1 billion franchise by itself, a game, where the people can come alive as their favorite Marvel characters, and they can play. And that may translate into esports in the near future as well. I think the other big money right now is addressing the huge gap that we were all talking about, like Asia getting into the market and sponsoring esports teams. So big companies like Asia or big brands, they can have direct access to people like companies like Blizzard with Overwatch or Riot. But what about the hundreds of thousands of SMEs out there? They're trying to find a way to get influencers. They're trying to find a way to get the top esports influencers to sell their brand for them, of which then they can reach out to the same audience that they are now missing out on. Because nowadays the kids watch YouTube, they watch Twitch. They don't watch TV, or they don't read newspapers anymore. So that medium, I think, has tremendous potential. Where, you know, in professional soccer leagues or NFL, NBA, you have managers that can professionally scout and manage those people. Right now, who's doing that for all the up-and-coming stars in esports in this part of the world? Very few people. I think you're one of them. But
it was us.
So I think that is big. That bridge of bridging strong IPs with a huge fan base, reducing your cost of acquisition, attacking directly to the consumer. And on top of that, having extremely strong data analytics that you know and you own the customer. You know exactly who they are, when they are on, what they like, what they dislike, and you're able to A/B test live. I think that has tremendous potential. And able to service your client, right, and know who they are. At the moment, most of these media owners or content owners or brands, I think they have to do a catch-up game, right? They're trying to build a direct-to-consumer strategy. They're trying to acquire platforms that allow them to do this. But it's going to take some time. But market is moving really fast. Just one final example. If you look at the League of Legends 2017 stream, it had 107 million views, right? Compare that to Super Bowl, which had 112 million views. But 30 seconds on Super Bowl costs you $5 million. Imagine how much it costs in the future for, you know, a live stream of a League of Legends or Overwatch or one of those big titles. The market is going to come soon, right? Super Bowl started in 1967, but when did League of Legends start?
Yeah.
The whole world is moving at a much accelerated pace. So I believe that we are in the right industry, targeting the right growth areas at this moment.
Excellent. And that's an excellent point for those that are new to esports, that are just getting into this for the first time. A lot of times when I speak to governments or I speak to agencies that are, again, slower moving, more bureaucratic, more political, I talk about the fact that you would have thought it was crazy to invest in a bunch of kids from the cities throwing a ball through a basket. You know, nobody's ever going to pay for this. Nobody's ever going to watch this. Like, it's a kid's game. All these things that you literally hear repeating themselves about esports today. So just take that into account the next time that you're sitting with your executives. If you think about what the LA Clippers would have cost somebody even in the 1980s, if you had hindsight, you would have made that investment now. So there's a lot more opportunity. It's a different landscape, but there are a ton of places if you're even looking for direct investment. And with that, I'm actually going to shift back to Vin, because Vin, you actually kind of did this in Vietnam. Can you talk a little bit about how Garena looked into investing in esports, and then how you translated that for the Vietnamese market to be so successful?
Talking about a sponsor for esports, looking back, at the first time I came to Singapore, it's like 2005. I came here to attend the World Cup again. So that's one of the very big international events. 10 years ago, it's really cool. We don't have DreamHack, we have DreamHack, but we don't have other things like World Championship or the TIs. So it's really cool back then. We are the team of 10 people from Vietnam come here, and we have only 1,000 USD budget.
Wow.
But it's actually really big. Samsung gave us that. So another few years, 3 or 4 years, when the Vietnam team came here again and won the Dota 1 tournament, actually at that time we got the request like 2,000 USD. And that's also a loss already. So, but right now, 10 years have passed, and the market chance is like 1 million times. It's so much different. So in the last 5 years, I have like about 10 million USD budget to invest into esports, to build it from the ground up, and then to get the Vietnamese scene at least at today. Every year, we build a community around, we just invest money into the community. We don't spend money on marketing and other things, because we all know, after all, the community is the guys who are going to stay with us from here, from time to time. So every year, we try to do the community events, more than 5,000 events every year, just for the communities. And then coming the semi-professionalists, then professionalists, and then we come at today. But to be able to do that, we need really a very long-term strategy and long vision. It must be 3 or 5 years. If you do it right, the money is going to be very well spent, and the great result will come back. So for all the brands and on the outside, people are looking into get into esports, such as Asia from you, and we really need to see it as a very big chance right now. We just need to look for the right people, the people who can connect all of the content creator and all the brands together as one place. And then you can control everything in the market.
Excellent. Yeah, and we've touched on this a little bit with Alan, but I'm going to let Jennifer kick off with it and then go back to Alan again. So monetization for companies should not just be on just the investments direct into content or esports. It is, of course, driving a core business. This is the new way of marketing, social media, advertising, everything. So Jennifer, how do you take advantage of what is still a relatively fragmented, and there are a lot of different places to look, to invest your money, to try to grow your brand? As a brand, how do you think about engaging with that and making sure that you get an ROI to your core company, which is, of course, Bandai Namco selling games?
So, you know, of course, for us, that esports investment is about speaking to the community and engaging with them and giving them that platform that they're looking for. I mean, we have the benefit of a really passionate community that wants to engage with this product and wants to have opportunities to compete at high levels. And so, you know, continuing to engage with them on that is what drives the eyeballs and keeps them playing our games. And so we're able to move from, you know, not only the launch of the title, but to the, you know, DLC season 1, season 2, season 3, and sustain that because we have a constant community that is playing those games, and then continue those franchises in the long term. You know, some of our fighting game franchises have been around for 2 decades because there is that passion from the community. And, you know, different brands do it differently, and some of the other brands, especially in fighting games, have looked into ways that they can sustain that investment. And thankfully, again, the community is passionate and is willing to make that investment. If you say, you know, Season 2 DLC goes purely towards our esports program, and we're going to create this thing that will feed back into this platform that you love, then the community is really willing to invest and make that purchase of those additional characters or whatever, because they know that it's going back into what they love. So I think connecting with that passion is really the reason why we're doing this.
Excellent. And community and passion are something that are important at AirAsia. So Alan, how do you speak to your executives when you're saying, this is an investment that we need to make? You already went into the story about giving jerseys and talking to Tony, and Tony knows about it. But you have to sell an entire organization on it. So what are the challenges, and what's your secret sauce to getting more money put into esports in a traditional company?
It wasn't easy at first, so you had to like speak to different people on a separate occasion. And when they finally get a buy-in, and then when they go for the big meeting, then they're like, oh yeah, he talked about it, you know. So if you just do one big presentation, it's going to go in here and come out there. Because what's happening right now in the scene, when I talk to a lot of other non-endemic brands, they are around the average age of, no offense, yeah, around the average age of 40 to 50 years old. And they say, yeah, the kids play it, right? But when they don't see the vision, the 5-year, the 10-year down the road kind of thing, and they don't know how to do it. When they say, yeah, we want to get into esports, then they go to the agency. What is esports? So there's a gap there in the market right now. So esports is like a disruptor, guys. It's like a Grab or Uber back in those days. And there are a lot of brands when we talk to, just to help them out as well, and they're stuck in that phase right now. But thank God for Asia, the bosses see the vision and see the potential of it. And recently, even last week, they gave me a mandate to, okay, Alan, have a 360 strategy for AirAsia. I'm like, wow, okay, awesome. And what we realized is that the community is very engaging, even to the point that they do birthday cakes for their fans with the face of the players there. I'm like, what? I don't get any birthday cake with my face in there. And they're going to that extent, guys. And they're treated like the David Beckhams, like superstars. Imagine they're on stage right now. After their game, they go down. People are all lining up to take photos with them. I'm like, okay, I've never seen that. So even like I went to a quick one in China. I went for an LPL, League of Legends match. I came down from my taxi on the day one. People offering me cash. Can I buy a ticket? I'm like, wow, okay. And then another day, I come down. People offering me tickets. You want to buy it? I'm like, it's a different level over there. So what I see in China, potentially is going to be happening. The wave's going to come over here. It's already happening in US. Investors are spending millions in teams. Over in Southeast Asia, we haven't reached that stage yet, potentially. But that's a whole new ball game. And those who go into space fast enough and do your due diligence, go on ground, talk to people, like good people from BitRap, example, yeah, it will give you a direct knowledge on it. Because right now in Southeast Asia, not many players out there. So you really need to go and talk to the industry leaders. And for AirAsia, we realized the potential. And right now, even when we sponsor WESG, World Electronic Sports Games by Alibaba Ali Sports, we realized that in the future, people are going to be flying around to watch their favorite teams. And we want to make sure top of mind is going to be AirAsia for them. That's the core one over there. And of course, you still got you have to do your day-to-day branding, advertising. So the direction from the bosses is like, okay, target the gamers. So how do you do that? So right now, I'm working on a strategy. I just got transferred to do full-time esports for AirAsia as of last week. No more that title over there, All-Stars Engagement and Internal Branding. It's actually my 7th portfolio. Super excited and happy to even talk to you all after this. Yep.
Excellent, and congrats for getting a dedicated esports position in an airline. So hopefully that kind of leaves you. I'm going to let everybody kind of give their closing remarks with a thought about this. So monetization is still developing. This whole thing is developing. Southeast Asia is developing. If you were going to put $1 anywhere, where would you put it right now? And we'll just go straight down and start with Alan again.
For us, we believe in teams because it can last a long time. It's not just a 1 day or 3 day thing, but of course, look at it from a 360 holistic approach. That's why we also sponsored events and potentially influencers in the future. Guys, 100 days in esports is like 1,000 days in real life, guys. The world is changing so fast in esports. You go to Google News, every day you got something new. So we are constantly learning, and for us, that's why we invested in Asia Science, but also like heavy investment in a big Dota team like Mineski. It's a big chunk of revenue cost over there, so we just sponsor them for now. And you have to find a sweet spot. Of course, we get approached by other big teams in the US and all that, so we don't fly to US that much yet. Maybe in the future, we'll consider, right? So just find whatever makes sense to your current business market, and that will work. That will work, yeah, thank you.
And Vin, where would you put $1 in today's market?
For me, it's pretty easy. That's can find a traditional answer. People will tend to put money into the team and the tournament. But for the emerging market like this, like the Southeast Asia, we don't have so many big organizations in terms of esports. We don't have team like Faceland. We have only department just for social and marketing, and the different department just for programming. So most of the biggest organizations in Southeast Asia right now, they only have the programmer department. So that's why right now for this region, we would like to put the money into like the company that can help the team grow, build the content around them, have them more become bigger and bigger. It's going to be better in terms of money spending. If you put into the bad team or the bad tournament, people is going to be waste a lot of money and didn't have any good result.
Yeah. So I have to troll at least someone on the panel, and Jennifer, you're up. So answer that question. Yeah, it had to be you. Answer the question in your Bandai Namco hat, and then take it off as someone who has been in marketing around gaming events and everything, and let us know whether it's a different answer.
Okay. Well, in my Bandai Namco hat, the answer is easy. Should invest money in our tournament. But I mean, in terms of that, you know, for all brands, I think people are clamoring to get into esports and don't really know where to start. And on the Ali Sports panel or discussion, Jason had mentioned that, you know, they're looking into going into a wide variety of esports, and that it's very fragmented, and that there are, of course, the big players, but actually there are other things like sports games that are maybe have greater potential in the future, or, you know, for us, like fighting games. And so I think for brands, and this has been repeated on several panels I've heard, is you have to really focus on your authenticity and what makes sense for your brand, and not just say, oh, esports, this is the hot thing, go into it, but really look into what each of those, you know, fragmented portions are, and what makes sense for your brand and what makes sense for your audience. And the benefit is that we can really deliver those details, because the platforms that we're on, for example, for us, our tournaments are on Twitch, so we can give you the detailed demographics to see if that really fits and works with your audience and your market. So that's my Bandai Namco answer. As a marketer answer, I don't think it's that different. I would say the same thing, that to be authentic to your brand, to not just jump into it because you think it's the hot thing, but like Alan said, you know, you have to start now, you have to look long term and understand that getting in now and getting in from the ground and being true to the community is what will grow your brand. I think, you know, if you get in 5 years from now when it's massive, people will see through that, and now really is the time when you can be part of that authentic community experience and start growing with people. And in Southeast Asia, like, it's even simple things, like there are some great players that are actually really young and don't have the means to travel to tournaments, and if you want to reach out and work with those people, you can grow with them. And so there's tons of opportunities like that I think will actually let you connect with communities and help them really appreciate the fact that you're investing because you actually care about players and care about the game.
Excellent. And David, I'll do a little twist for you. Where would that dollar have gone 10 years ago? Where would the dollar go 2 years ago? And now where would you put it?
It's still the same answer. it's still mobile gaming. 10 years ago, the app stores opened up, and it shifted the paradigm. 10 years ago, the telcos were in control of all the content that reaches all your mobile phones. 10 years later, right now, nothing goes to the mobile phone without going through the app stores, right? Or you have to download it directly. 2 billion handsets in the world. Google says in 3 years, there'll be 3 billion. The next billion handsets will come from emerging markets. Those emerging markets, mostly South Asia, including India. I just came back from Myanmar just last week, and what I saw there blew me away. My first trip there. Local telco, MPT, 6 million subscribers 4 years ago, 28 million today. They put a subscription service out on HTML5 simple web games, 500,000 subscribers per day at 12 to 14 cents per user. Sachet pricing, telco carrier billing, over $2 million a month. I see the money in mobile. I think Google sees the money in mobile. They just launched Google Go, Android Go Lite that caters to really low-end phones. I think China is really pushing their phones globally. Most of the phones I see in those emerging markets are the Xiaomi, the Huawei, the Oppo phones. And in those markets, half the market still has no internet access at home. Half of the homes, right? So what do? They go mobile. In India, I was talking to this massive telco that sold a feature phone that can stream videos directly to your phone. And they included a connector that you can plug it to your TV. So it worked as a set-top box, right? The next step they're gonna do is push 20 million $30 set-top boxes into the home. So my money would be following where the fans are. The next billion handsets, the content that would go onto those billion handsets. There's 1.4 million games on the App Store today. That's 20% of the App Store. 80% are apps. But that forms 80% of all the revenue, which is 70 billion last year, and 100 billion in 2021. So I think that's where I feel the money is. Acceleration in owning the customer, understanding them, being able to collect microtransactions from them, serving the community, forming that really strong bond, and building up the user base. One last example. I recently saw an experiment in the US on a streaming channel called Crunchyroll. They had this one title that was streaming to 3.5 million fans. Each time they rolled out an episode, at least 1.5 million views. They had no games. So they got someone in Japan, built a game around that same IP, zero marketing, and immediately 3.5 million downloads. They made 3 million in the first month. I think if you apply the same to China, with those guys that we were talking about with just now, Douyu or Bilibili, or anyone who owns OTT platforms across this region, I think that would be a massive opportunity, because when they're watching videos, they can't interact, they can't comment, they can't do anything, right? They're craving for something whereby they can have that little moment of magic where they can be that character that they love. So I think that opportunity is there from what I see in terms of monetization.
Excellent. Round of applause for our panel today. Hope you all picked up some important points. I'll try to summarize quickly. So mobile, a lot of the future and a lot of where your clients are, especially in Southeast Asia. Authenticity in your branding and make sure that you build community. And don't be scared to have a long-term vision. So thank you very much for coming. I'll be continuing with some more gaming panels tomorrow, as well as Nick in the morning. And we really appreciate everyone for coming out. Thank you.